As adjudicators, we always feel like there might be something missing in either the performance or the literature overall of school jazz ensemble programs. So when we go to a typical festival, there's a sense that there's something missing. I thought I would do an analysis of junior high jazz festival of consistent quality programs. What I was looking for is what it was that the directors did in selecting the literature. Are they selecting high quality literature from the great composers and the great works of jazz, or are they selecting things that seem to imitate or run parallel to those great works? My hypothesis is that directors choose music that imitates the elements of jazz rather than teaching the elements of jazz as taught to us and is passed down to us by the great composers. So I took all of the selections from this festival and categorized them by title, composer, arranger, style, tempo, the form or the harmonic vocabulary, and their relationship to jazz history. These were things that were easy to get to categorize at a quick look of the program itself to give us a sense of what was being played and what type of music it was. So when we take a look at titles, in this sample size of over 100 tunes, and there were about 30 jazz ensembles performing, grades 7 through 9, 6 through 8, junior high or middle school. There wasn't a high degree of frequency of the tunes that were performed, and as a matter of fact, all but one was what I would consider a great work by Ellington, C-Jam Blues, and the others you can see are just pretty wide variety. When you take a look at the composers, there was a frequency of some significance out of 100. Mike Sweeney and Doug Beach, even Larry Neek, rising to the top to some degree. This is composers of junior high jazz music. If you go back, you could see that Ellington was a little bit lower on the list. When we look at arranger, Mike Sweeney was quite a bit higher, but some of the similar and familiar names came up. In looking at the style of pieces, swing was at the top of the list with more than half being some type of swing groove. As a matter of fact, in the in-depth numbers, there are some rock swing and gospel swing type pieces too that put it well over 50. So swing groove, swing feel, won hands down. In looking at the tempo of the piece, most pieces, about 70%, were a medium tempo. And the harmonic vocabulary, interestingly enough, approximately a third, were 32-bar song form, so AABA. There were quite a few tunes that were a blues, about 20%, which is also the frequency in number. And then, you can see descending order, several other common styles. And this is the thing that I think was most interesting to me. When I took a look at all of the tunes and styles and harmonic vocabulary, the relationship to jazz history was most telling to me. Over almost 50% of the tunes were some type of publisher original, which confirmed my sense that most of the music that directors select are pieces generated by publishing companies, written by trusted arrangers and composers that work with those companies. And don't dig deeply enough at the essence, the vocabulary, the great music of jazz, works of Thelonious Monk, Duke Ellington, Charles Mingus. Here's a little bit more detailed look at the jazz standards that were performed, And standard might be loosely assigned to those titles, and jazz rock standards. But the jazz great works, as I'll call them, a few of them are Ellington tunes, but they're popular Ellington tunes. Moanin' is a Mingus tune. Haitian folk songs a Mingus tune. That's good. Burke's Works, a Dizzy Gillespie tune, and then one Thelonious Monk tune, Blue Monk. But Blue Monk is not filled with or robust in the vocabulary of Thelonious Monk, and Thelonious Monk's rhythm and melodic content is well worth teaching. So the original question was, do jazz educators select literature that exposes students to the essential elements in literature of jazz vocabulary, tradition, and history? And my sense was that directors choose music that imitates or runs parallel to that, but on a surface level. And you can see that, to summarize, these elements are most frequent in the jazz ensemble literature. And if we were to create the composite literature most often selected, this composite selection would be a 32-bar standard format, AABA. It'd be a medium tempo swing chart composed and arranged by a trusted publisher. My conclusion is that directors are more likely to pick a piece that they might trust the outcome. My experience is that these composers don't necessarily, or aren't necessarily, interested in teaching that great jazz vocabulary that the Ellingtons, the Mingus, John Coltrane, Charlie Parker, Louis Armstrong, Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, to name some of the most adventurous jazz musicians, would be teaching students. So my suggestion would be to perhaps in festivals, not that we could change this right away, but to include some type of compulsory element that would be maybe a required tune, a required head that everybody would learn, perhaps improvise on, learn the changes, but everybody learns the melody, and that there'd be some type of workshop component to a festival where these tunes will be worked on by an adjudicator, maybe a separate adjudicator, to help them with the jazz language, to bring them to another level. And I think that directors and students would start to see that when we look at this literature and this vocabulary, the best literature and vocabulary, we'll start to see that a lot of what we select maybe is quite watered down. So something to think about. Soften the blow. We certainly could not include the performance or the rating of this component in the overall rating, or maybe there could be some kind of special award for schools or students that seem to have captured the style the best. For more information, please visit tomdavismusic.com.